Hello, Biblionauts. I am Grix, among other things, and today I am here with Steve Donoghue. This is a historic moment for this channel. It's taking me a while to learn how to use this webcam. I am a boomer when it comes to digital things, but here we are. I don't think that Steve needs an introduction, but just in case, let's just say that he's BookTube's #1 reader. He's a prolific reader and allegedly a prolific writer when it comes to books. However, he continues to refuse to publish. I don't know why. That is definitely something that I want to touch on. But yeah, uh, I don't know if you want to start by talking to us a little bit about this new collective that you have started.
I'd
Yeah.
be happy to do that. But first, I thought I would add just a little footnote to your introduction, which is that I have in fact published 5,000 times more than anyone else who's ever been on YouTube.
Mm,
Not just BookTube, not just WriterTube, but anywhere on YouTube. I published 5,000 times as much as any of them, or all of them put together. Just not fiction. That's all.
fair enough. Fair enough.
I've had works published all over the world for a very long time. It's just book criticism. That's all. I've only ever had 2 works of fiction published in all
But you
that
have
time.
had two, yeah, which are not under your name though. Otherwise, I would know.
No, I've had 2 works of fiction published under my own name
Oh,
in
really?
all that time, 2 short stories.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I did not know
One for
that.
an Australian literary magazine called The Lifted Brow, and one for a BookTube anthology of original fiction called Served Cold, separated by 25 years, and the only 2 of their kind. But other than that, no. But still
How long
published.
ago was the last one?
What was that?
How long ago did you publish the last one?
Well, I wrote a story called The Cold Traps for a BookTube anthology called Served Cold. It was just a couple of years ago.
Oh, okay.
And then
Yeah,
for the
I was basically just trying to make you angry because you won't let me read you Troy War or Via Fala or anything like that. So I thought maybe,
it's not so much that I won't let people read them, I just find it hard to believe that anybody would be interested. I, I, I guess I should just finalize these files so that they are ready for sharing, but I haven't done that. Troy War is not even a coherent file. There are bits and pieces everywhere that I have to pull together. That Troy War predates the internet.
mm,
So I have to pull all of those things together. The sequel to Troy War, Steve Donohue's Ulysses, was done mostly electronically. And the sequel to that, the Telemachiad, was done entirely electronically. So those files will be easy to do. But Troy War is a little bit primordial.
do you enjoy more writing or editing what you write?
I don't edit what I write.
You never
Uh,
edit what you write, not even the nonfiction.
well, well, if if you're writing a book, the nonfiction that I write for publication is book reviews. And if you're writing a book review, you're writing it with an editor. An editor has
Ah, okay,
commissioned to do it.
fair enough.
And technically, I guess an editor could offer me edits. I make it clear to editors at the beginning that I don't really want them to do that. I have 100,000 times as much experience as they do. So if you're an editor and you just graduated from, your MA degree at some stupid school and you've never published anything, and you just happen to know somebody and so you got your job, I don't really want to hear from you that paragraph number 6 of my latest review doesn't really work for you. I couldn't care less whether or not it works for you. It works. If it doesn't work for you, you should deal with you, not me. But technically, all of that stuff is edited. Technically speaking, I'm not coming off very well, am I? Coming off like the world's biggest prima donna. I typically have 3 rules. I would like to be paid. I would like to pick my own subject matter, and I don't particularly want to be edited. You can spot typos, definitely. A word dropped here or there. Everybody does that from time to time. But
Okay, but
this
you don't add
paragraph,
into the plot, basically,
right?
or into the argument if it's a review.
An
I
editor, I
don't know.
don't.
Personally, I have a very fragmented way of writing. I sometimes I will write something that I think is conclusive and it's maybe like 19 pages, and then in the middle I add another 90 pages. Uh, and somehow it ends up being a single thing. But it's very rare that I will write something as a linear narrative and get to the end, and not, and that will end up being the final product, unless it's poetry. Poetry is different.
Well, I'm extremely linear, and I compose in my head. So sitting down at the keyboard for the actual act of typing the letters of the language, nothing is happening at that moment for me. All the organization and then the composing has happened before that, on a dog walk, or during a meal or something like that. It never happens when I'm sitting there at the keyboard. I can't imagine what that would be like. I see people do that. I see videos of people who have write with me videos where they just turn the camera on and that's all it is for 3 hours. It's just you watching them write. And they stop every minute because what do I want to say now? Or what? I don't work that way at all. I compose before I get to the keyboard. So all that's left to do when I'm actually typing is a little bit of fine tuning. That's I'm not generating the prose at that point. I can't imagine what that would be like. But yeah, I don't really want an editor to say, the way you're making this point in this in this paragraph of the piece doesn't really work for me. I don't really want an editor to say, well, I would have said this differently. Okay, but you aren't commissioning yourself. You're commissioning me. So I don't care how you would have done it. And I also don't want, every once in a while, an editor they won't come right out and say it, but they'll come close to implying that not only does it not work for them, but that it's inept. And it isn't. It just simply isn't. But nevertheless, I have been neglecting writing recently.
Have you? I was wondering because I didn't see any more videos.
No, I've been neglecting fiction recently because I had a large amount of actual paid writing to do that wasn't fiction. And like anybody else, when I fall out of the immediate habit, I need to crawl back on to the immediate habit. I need to do that. I started today, but I will keep it up. I didn't feel like I could in good conscience make a writing collective video if I wasn't actually writing, but now I am. So now I can start to make those again.
How many words have you written so far since you started the writing collective for that specific project?
Oh, well, the thing that I'm doing is the Trials of Esther novel that I'm really, really enjoying. I'd say I probably have 7,000 words done.
I'm not familiar with the Trials.
What was that?
Did you say the Trials of Esther? Is that a reference to some historical event that you are fictionalizing, or is just the title of
it's the Trials of Esther, and the Esther refers to the biblical character, but not explicitly. It's the real reference is that it's about a publishing house, and the publishing house is Esther House, that the original owner of the creator of the publishing house named it after his wife. So, and I like having a working title when I work on something. I can't think about it straight if I just think
to have a list of 10 titles. I can never decide for one.
I need to have that. It doesn't have to be the final decision, but I need to have something that it is, something that I call it, or unknown project number 1. Or I had an old friend who used to refer to them by the color of the folder that they were in. So the blue book, the yellow book, the red book. He had no idea what their titles were going to be. I couldn't do that. Just couldn't do that. But now that I paused the Trials of Esther while I cleared away actual work, and now I'm returned to it, and it feels wonderful to be back to doing that. I don't know how people don't write fiction every day. I mean, I went a week without doing it, but I had lots of other stuff to do, lots of other writing to do. But people who don't write at all, I don't know how they do that.
That has to be hard. I do write for university a little bit. It's academic, so it's also on demand in some degree, but it's nowhere nearly as much as you have to write. And I find it very hard when I'm writing about something that has to do with uni. I don't want to touch the computer again until the next day at least. And yeah, so I actually also joined on this project of yours. I think I try to write fiction every day. It's not something that I'm familiar with. I like writing. That was initially the reason why I thought of making this goal. Because you wanted to write 1,000 words every day, and I, as you can probably tell from my channel, I'm not a very stable person when it comes to basing anything, creating habits that you just. I mean, I do have habits, something such as habits within my own chaos, but I wrote like 7,000 words in 3 days, and then I didn't write anything for the next week, and only today probably will I start again writing. So yeah, I'm pretty I'm pretty reliable in that sense. I think I can definitely strive for the total, which you said not to do, but I'm definitely cannot commit to writing 1,000 words a day. It becomes yeah, unbearable for me whenever anything becomes
Why I
monotonous in
said,
that sense.
you know why I said that people shouldn't focus on the end result?
Mm.
I
So
said they
that
shouldn't
people
focus.
doesn't do what I did.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but
So I told people,
what is the
don't
harm on
focus
that?
on the end result, because what you should focus on is building good habits.
I have lots of good habits. I wake up on time. I don't not sleep like others.
The only
um,
good habit is a regular habit.
mm,
There's no such thing. The thing you're describing is something you're in love with. It's not natural. You keep it that way because you're in love with the feel of chaos, of what you call chaos. But nothing good comes from that.
mm.
Just an affectation. That's all. The only good habit is a regular habit.
I don't think that lack of regularity necessarily implies chaos, though.
But it does.
Especially if you are
You don't
born
think,
in that
but it
chaos,
does.
which is my case.
No, you don't think that, but it does.
Mm,
A lack of regularity does imply chaos. And chaos is inherently counterproductive. It means that no matter what you do, you say 7,000 words in 3 days and then nothing for 3 months, 3 years, 30 years. It means that whatever the product was of that work sprint is mostly useless. And you don't want that, do you? You don't
when
want
it comes
that.
to long-term projects, it's definitely as an impediment, I would say. But I mean, I've never missed a deadline of anything, so it's not.
That
What I
doesn't,
mean is that lack of the regularity doesn't mean incapacity for
no,
a certain
no,
kind of accountability,
it doesn't. No. But the one kind
neither
of
lack of
writing,
discipline.
a kind of discipline, the one kind of writing that doesn't require good habits is deadline writing. As everyone knows, since everyone develops bad reactions to deadline writing when they're in school, where they see the deadline and think, well, I'll do all the work then. I won't do it steadily up until then. I'll do it all then. Those aren't good habits. The whole idea of the writing collective, although I'm hardly one to talk, having taken a week off, but the whole idea of the writing collective was to concentrate on building good habits. I've known so many people in my life who said the same thing that you just said, never missed a deadline. And it's not exactly what I'm talking about.
Enough. Actually, I don't know why I'm arguing against this point because I actually agree with you. Especially I don't think that you need to be regular for everything, but definitely you have to have choose certain things. And if you do love something as much as I claim to love writing, then of course you would have to follow certain regularity. However, it's a thing of it has to do with priorities. I don't think as much as you do. I don't necessarily agree with when you say that there is a moral. You have a moral duty to both write and publish. The published part is the one that I completely disagree with. The one that comes with writing is like perhaps I feel like first of all you have a moral duty to yourself to live the life that you want to live, right? And sometimes that can be in direct conflict with dedicating hours every day to sitting down in front of a screen, especially when there is so many things happening outside of it. Hmm. Okay. This silence.
Live the life you want to live. That's the highest priority.
No, I didn't say that it has to be the highest priority. I have many duties that I have to follow, right? But writing is something that, as much as the way you present it seems like you see it as something that you do for others, when I write, I'm genuinely doing it for myself. if I wanted to help others, I'd be helping others outside
Well,
of the screen.
yes.
When I'm writing, it's something selfish. So I don't think that it can be a moral duty because of that.
No, right. When you write, it should be for yourself. Absolutely. The doing it for others part comes in sharing it at the end, which is the publishing part. And
Hmm.
that's never been easier to do. I mean, you could make a blog, for Pete's sake. Today, you could start a blog that would
But don't you
be,
feel like most people who publishes does it out of vanity and not some sort of generosity?
well,
Maybe not
maybe
most people, but a lot.
maybe so, but the people who are going to find, well, okay, 95% of what people publish is horrible anyway, regardless of what their motive is. But down the line, the person who finds it isn't going to care what the motive was. How many canonical works of world literature were published solely out of personal vengeance, a desire of personal spite? All the stuff connected with them is gone by now. The people who encounter those things only encounter the work. I, I just I don't I don't think that people should be just hiding what they're doing. It seems incredibly selfish
Hmm.
when the
But
means of publishing is so easy. But
I mean, how easy though? Because
like you
um,
said, we probably agree on things.
the camera froze for a second. But yeah, how easy publishing though? Because when it comes to publishing fiction, as much as you have published when it comes to book reviews, you haven't published any fiction precisely because of not being familiar with the process or something like that. I think I heard in a previous video. And I myself tried to publish, and it was totally out of vanity and narcissism as a teenager, just because people would listen to my poems. And I thought, okay, let's get them through. And I found the process incredibly difficult, even when I had a publishing house that was willing to publish them for free.
Well, it's not incredibly difficult to do. If depending on whether or not you want to use Kindle. If you use Kindle Direct Publishing, you
Mm.
can you if you have a manuscript now, it can be a book with an ISBN and a price and international distribution all over the world tonight. They say that, and there are many YouTube videos of people actually doing it in real time so that you can see. Here you go. If you're going to use a stock, somewhat boring cover, if you're not going to deal with an editor, if you're not going to pay any extra hands to look at it, if you just want to format it as a book and put it in the Kindle marketplace, that's easy to do. Most people want to do more than that, and that introduces more elements. But if you stick with self-publishing, then no, it's not hard. I
I
haven't
hadn't
done it.
even considered Kindle, to be honest.
Well, it's a huge marketplace, but a
Mm.
lot of people don't want to just do that. I haven't done it only because I don't want to do just that. If I want to self-publish, I want, a designed cover, I want a proofreader, I want a
Yeah.
well-designed interior. I maybe want to look at uh, other distribution venues instead of locking myself into Kindle, Ingram, for instance, or something like that. Maybe find a small indie publishing house so that I'm not all alone, so I'm not doing it all by myself. That would require checking them out, making sure that their business practices are good, making sure that they don't take a lot of money of any money that the book might earn or anything like that, and also all the technical details involved. That I haven't trained myself. I haven't taught myself to do any of that, but I know plenty of writers who have, and they
Mm.
all say the first couple of times you're learning, and after that you don't even think about it anymore, and it's easy. Then after that, the only thing you want is for these books to generate the cost of making the next one. That's how
Yeah.
they view success, is that it's
I
their
mean,
publishing, their self-publishing is not costing them any money.
I
That
feel
would be
like in
wonderful.
any time you're doing a job that is entirely vocational, that is the goal. If it can get you through the next book or the next whatever it is that you're producing, then it should be enough. It would definitely would be for me. But the point of I also would like to, if I were to publish, I also would like to publish in that way, and that's also the reason why I've never done it. But I think that when you publish in that way, because publishing through Kindle sounds good enough when you have when someone has like over 15,000 subscribers like you do, because then someone will want to read that. But to me, throwing it into the ether of Kindle without having any sort of actual marketing process or whatever to actually put it out into the world, to actually make sure that people comes across that book, feels as purposeless as not publishing at all. It doesn't really, it doesn't guarantee that people will get to it. And if I am publishing, because I don't need people to read me, but if I am publishing, it means that I have written something that I want people to read, that I want them to spend the 10 hours or how long it takes to each person to read whatever I wrote. Which is, to me, there is at least in a bit of vanity or self-centeredness to that act, egocentrism perhaps. I don't know what's the best word for this, but I would do it for myself. I wouldn't do it for them, unless it was a work of nonfiction in which I was trying to get across a point that I considered relevant to society, like Animal Liberation with Peter Singer.
But okay, but there is a difference, right? If you say that, first of all, I want to point out that my readership for my written words is actually considerably bigger than the audience for my BookTube channel. Just to get that out of the way. But
I can imagine.
if you write a book and publish it, format it, and publish it with an ISBN and a price and whatnot on Kindle, it's findable. Other people, strangers to you, can find it and read it. Whereas if you don't publish it at all, they can't. If you don't publish it at all, the only people who are ever going to see it are your endless stream of lovers who come across pages stuffed in a drawer or under a pillow or something. That's it. That's all that will ever be able to look at it. So my goal, my admonition to people is get it out where strangers can find it somehow, somewhere. And I admit I don't do that. I should, but I don't do it. The reason I don't do it is because it's not because I'm afraid. It's just because I haven't sat down and actually worked out the mechanics. That's all. The mechanics of self-publishing. If you want to do a good job of it, the first few times it's going to cost you money, and there's going to be a learning curve where you're going to make serious mistakes. And I know that, and like anything else, whether you're learning a language or learning how to swim or whatever, nobody looks forward to that, right? Nobody looks forward to the learning stage of anything new because it's always messy and humiliating and frustrating. And that's what it's going to be with self-publishing a book. I know that. Will I like the cover design? Will the design, the interior design actually work, or will it look terrible? How much does it cost for an editor, for a proofreader, for a copy editor, for a cover designer? How much does each ISBN cost? What are the different formattings for different templates, different reading platforms? I need to learn all of that, and then I need to do it. I need to take it on the chin and do it. Just spend the money, spend the time. Every time I get to the point where I could do that, I instead just write. But at least my words are getting out into the world, not my fiction, but plenty of nonfiction is getting out into the world where people can find it.
I know, I wasn't ignoring that. I was just trying to create some polemic because at the end of the day, you know, I do have access to your nonfiction, but sometimes when you tease us about certain books that you have written, right? I feel like it wouldn't be very hard to just create a Google Drive and put a link on the description so that we can check out via Fala, you know?
No, it wouldn't. That's true.
As a reader, not as a writer, I say that.
That's true.
But you do partially agree with me as well, that there is a certain amount of time and work that you have to be willing to give up to dedicate to the act of publishing, right? I'm more than willing to dedicate it to writing, although I think that I will be gradually more and more willing as my life goes on. I have way too many things on my embodied bucket list to do that are a priority before actually writing a book. I feel like personally the worst moments of my life were the moments when I was writing, and not because I wasn't enjoying them, but because whenever I didn't have anything to do in what we would call the real world, was the moments when I actually started writing. That's how I started writing, because I wasn't able to do the things I wanted to do. So now that I don't even have the time to do everything that I want to do, but I can. It seems productive or not, maybe not, that's not the word, this is not, I don't know, I speak in terms of production, but definitely, again, it just doesn't make any sense for me to sit down for 3 hours a day, which I do it for reading and for writing, but sometimes I wonder, why am I not crossing the Amazon right now?
Well, we come back to the subject of regular habits.
Mm,
Regular habits make that happen. If writing springs up only when there's a void between international adventures, well, that's because regular writing habits don't exist. It might be worthwhile. Well, you're very young and you're probably planning your next major international adventure. I guess I was the same once upon a time, but now I need the. I think I would be a lot more energetic about learning self-publishing. I've had a lot of self-published authors reach out to me and say,
mm,
"I'll help you. I'll walk you through the process. It'll need money and it will need
mm.
some time, but it's not that difficult." I think one of the reasons that I'm not so impelled to do that is because some writing of mine goes out into the world every day. Something
Yeah,
that I
yeah, that has to feel very nice. I always, my first dream was to just have um we call it columnas in the newspaper. I don't know how you call it, a column, perhaps, in the newspaper, just talking about like the politics of the day. But that's a long time ago. A long time ago became completely detached from politics. But something like that, I can see, and also it gives you the sense of purpose, right? Because writing for the sake of writing, I have kept many journals. That's a form of writing that I have kept as a habit, and I think it helps in many more ways than just writing. But yeah, when it
and it's
comes to major
also
projects, this might be the first one. This might be the first time that I write more than 50,000 words.
well, journals are good among all the other ways because they straddle the line between private and public writing because they do have a way of being found. They do have a
Mm,
way of outliving their writers.
yeah.
So there's that, but that's awful haphazard. There are much better ways to get your words out into the world. Like for instance, what about a Grix website or a Grix blog?
I
Or
had one and I deleted it when I was trying to do a significant change in the way I wrote and also presented myself. Which is also the reason why I started traveling and stopped writing. But I don't think we have time to talk about me, although as much as I would like it, because I think we're running out of time, and I don't know how this works, but I think it's just gonna cut at any point.
yes, cut
So
it 30 minutes.
we should definitely continue this conversation. Maybe soon, since I haven't even got to the questions. And
Oh, you had
yeah, I mean,
questions.
I'm sorry for all the technical problems and everything.
Well, what about it? Do we have time for a question? Do you know how much time you have left?
No, I cannot see it. I cannot see it anywhere. It just said here, running out of time, upgrade now, but it doesn't really say how much time I have left.
Oh, right. Yes,
Yeah,
you have.
yeah, yeah. Wait. Yeah, yeah. I do have. Oh, okay. That's much more than I thought. We still have 9 minutes.
Excellent. Plenty of time for me to berate you even more.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
We
looking
haven't
forward
even
to
got
that.
to the phenomenology of the spirit. We haven't even got to that yet.
No, no, no. That we leave it for another day. When you want to talk about philosophy, we need a lot of time because I do have answers to your to your arguments. So yeah, I I definitely think sometime we should talk about philosophy because I'm actually, as much as you know probably that I am very self-aware of the faults of philosophy. I'm still a strong defender, and
Yes,
uh, and
yes,
you seem to be the strongest attacker that I've met. So.
yes, because it's worthless garbage. And I
Mm,
don't need time to demolish the phenomenology of the spirit. I
mm.
don't need more than 1 second. There's no such thing as a spirit of anything. There is no unseen element, to anything, to any thought. There is no unseen element to anything.
I
There, done.
agree.
The book goes away. The book
I
goes
agree,
away.
but
The minute you agree with that, the book goes away. But so you can either love it or you can agree with that, but you can't do
I
both.
will only say that in the translation that I use as we read the phenomenon of the spirit, the word spirit, we change it as for concept or notion.
Right. Right. But we can't blame the translation. The whole idea of the book is that there is an unseen ghost of a thing hovering around everything. A water bottle, a book, a rock, an idea, and there isn't. There isn't. There isn't. So the whole idea underpinning the book is wrong and the book is garbage.
I have not arrived at the point in which through mysticism, right now all I have is philosophical obscurity in the book, which I have criticized endlessly on my read along, but I haven't really arrived at the point in which true mysticism comes through to the point that you cannot read it as just grounded arguments. With a lot of help from the interpretation side, but whenever I finish the book, I'll get back to you on that, because I'm more than willing to close Hegel. I'm not a, I wasn't looking forward to this along at all. It's a way to close my philosophical stage of life. One thing is defending Hegel, another thing is defending philosophy, though.
It's not a question of crossing over into mysticism. Every word that you have read so far is mysticism. All of it is mysticism. There is no invisible element to life, whether you call it a god or a pixie or the essence of something. There is no invisible element. A rock. There you go. It's a rock. There's no rockness. There's no rock-like qualities. There's no rock essence. It's just a rock. That's all.
I agree
And
with
so
that. I don't believe in the Platonic ideal or anything like that. So I agree with that claim. I think you can agree with that claim and still follow certain parts of the arguments for their own sake.
certain parts of the arguments in a book called The Phenomenology of the Spirit or the Essence. So you can disagree with any idea.
I really didn't want this to turn into a discussion about philosophy, because as you can see, I think this will take well longer than 7 minutes. But I'm almost feeling sad now that we start talking about this, that we didn't do the yearly philosophy reading that we are planning to do. Maybe at some point this year we could do a monthly philosophy reading, a single month would be more less painful for one of us at least.
For one of us, yes. It's for one. I would definitely want to start with the ancient Greeks, and maybe I think I seem to remember you saying that Aristotle is not one of your favorites.
No, not that his ideas are not, but when I encountered Aristotle, he was the first properly obscure, like, bad writer in the philosophical world that I encountered. Because of that, I hated him, and I found the Nicomachean Ethics readable, but I felt like they were telling me either self-evident stuff that I already knew, and that, like, only someone who maybe had grown up fatherless needed to hear, or things that were wrong, just clearly wrong, or old-fashioned. So it was just very easy for me to hate Aristotle from my position as a teenager beginning to read philosophy. Not that I thought of coming back. I opened the metaphysics a few months ago, but again, it does require a certain level of intellectual effort to read someone like Aristotle, especially if you're reading the metaphysics or the politics. No, the politics requires just patience, but I just didn't want to give it to him. Huh?
You could say Plato, but Aristotle started it all. In terms of philosophy, he gave us all the essential ingredients. A bad relationship with his father, a hatred of women that extended to punching them with a closed fist in the face, and a raging, uncontrolled, sexually transmitted disease. And every major written philosopher since Aristotle has had all three of those. Every single one.
What about female philosophers?
I am sure that you will say there haven't been any. Because this is a boys' club. That's the whole reason why guys like it. Because girls are not
Margaret
excited.
Cavendish, for example, or Maria Zambrano in the Spanish world, or one that would hate me to call her a philosopher, but I can't help but call Hannah Arendt a philosopher.
I might point out that my three qualifications can all be achieved by a woman. So they're not explicitly ruled out, but even so, you don't consider any of those three philosophers because you consider philosophy to be inherently male, a male activity. Not just a male activity, but a female excluding activity. That is one of its sole beacons of attraction for the people who go to it.
I always fall back into the etymology with philosophy. That's my last argument is, you know, against the sophists, which when you criticize philosophy for what it does, which is sort of like make rhetoric around nothing in order to almost like recruit cult followers, which is the worst kind of philosophy, right? That's the tradition. That's what's been done with the word philosophy. Just like, you know, the word feminism has had many different acceptions attached to it. But if you really look at sort of like the idea of like, you know, the philosophers as opposed to the sophists, you know, Gorgias versus Plato, for example, the sophists call themselves wise men, and they just would come to you and tell you whatever they wanted without any sort of like will to truth behind what they were saying. While philosophers were like, look, I actually don't really know what's true, but I want to know it. So it's more like for me, philosopher, you could almost translate it on a more mechanistic way into just I like learning. That's why the way I see philosophy for me is I like learning. That's why I can call you a philosopher, as already did Jared Henderson and so many other people, because I feel like that approach is just very. I feel like there should be a discipline that conceives that conceives the possibility of someone like reading a book on science and then a book on that, and actually genuinely trying to get at it. Metaphysics, which is what you hate from philosophy specifically, more than anything else, is I agree as well. Like I don't think metaphysics. I think metaphysics doesn't make any sense. Philosophy mainly, when you're philosophizing, should be applied to something, like to music, for example. That would be my like very summarized overall counter argument to your critique of philosophy. But yeah, once again we are running out of time. I wanted to ask so many questions, and we did stay on the philosophical topic. But I'll ask you one question, the deepest question of all, the most philosophical one, just to finish this before we run out of time. This is a very profound philosophical game. It's a fuck, marry, kill. Tolstoy, Melville, and Ovid. Who you choose?
I don't have a history with any one of the three of them. That's why I never understand this particular story, this particular setup. You need a history.
Oh, indulge me.
You need a history with people to want to do any one of those three things to them. You can't do any one of those three things without a history.
I agree with you. I was hoping you would indulge me, but okay. What I was really wondering is yeah, no, okay. Let's leave it aside then. I was hoping to know which one you hated the most as a personality, which one you liked the most, and which one you were more fascinated by, but couldn't spend more than a minute around. That's really what Fuck, Marry, Kill translates into. But we are running out of time again, so
completely out of time. Yes, indeed.
Thank you for being.